The sky was the color of a fresh bruise, and Alara's life was a burning wreckage on the side of a forgotten country road. The sleek, silver Aston Martin, a testament to a fortune built on cold logic and colder decisions, sat with its hood propped open, tendrils of steam hissing into the damp evening air like a dying man's last breaths. Inside, Alara Vance, 32 years old and worth over $200 million, felt a panic so profound it was a physical weight on her chest. Her phone, her lifeline, showed 2 mocking words in the top corner: no service. No, 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 she whispered, slamming her palm against the Italian leather steering wheel. The gesture was useless, childish. Money couldn't fix a shattered timing belt. Money couldn't summon a signal from the ether. Here, in the sprawling, silent emptiness of the Nebraska Panhandle, her wealth was meaningless. A flicker of movement in the vast, rain-smeared field of corn caught her eye. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, moved with a slow, deliberate grace between the stalks. He held a tool, his movements economical and sure. He was far away, but even at this distance, he seemed as rooted to the land as the crops he tended. Swallowing her pride, a bitter pill she was unaccustomed to, Alara pushed the car door open and stepped into the mud. Her $1,000 heels sank instantly, the cold, wet earth sucking at them. She cursed, pulling her cashmere coat tighter. She waved an arm, a frantic, city-bred gesture. "Hello. Excuse me. Hello." The man stopped. He turned, his face shadowed by a worn baseball cap. For a long moment, he simply looked at her, a strange creature floundering at the edge of his world. Then, he began to walk toward her. As he drew closer, Alara took him in. He was older than her, perhaps in his late 40s, his face leathered by sun and wind, with lines around his eyes that spoke of squinting into distant horizons. His clothes were clean but faded, patched in places. His hands, when he wiped them on his canvas pants, were rough and calloused, a map of a life of physical labor. But it was his eyes that arrested her. A calm, steady blue, they held a deep, unsettling stillness. "Car trouble?" he asked. His voice was a low rumble, like distant thunder. "It just died," Alara said, her own voice tight with stress. "I have a very important merger meeting in Chicago tomorrow morning. I can't be stuck here. I need a phone. I'll pay you. Whatever you want." A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. "Phone's back at the house. Reception spotty out here, best in the East Pasture. Name's Caleb." "Alara," she said, not offering her last name. It was a name that opened doors, but here, she suspected, it would mean nothing. "Well, Alara," Caleb said, peering into the engine bay with a practiced eye. "This is a bit fancier than the tractors I'm used to. I can tow you to my place with the old Ford. Get you sorted." Hope, fragile and desperate, bloomed in her chest. "Thank you. I'll make it worth your while, I promise." He just nodded, his gaze lingering on her face for a moment too long, a strange, unreadable emotion in his eyes. It wasn't lechery or curiosity. It was something else, something deeper, almost like recognition. An hour later, her Aston Martin was hitched to a truck so ancient it seemed to be held together by rust and faith. They rattled down a long, gravel drive to a simple, white clapboard farmhouse. It was neat and well kept, but it spoke of a simplicity Alara couldn't comprehend. A tire swing hung from a massive oak tree in the front yard. Inside, the house was warm and smelled of baking bread and wood smoke. It was a direct assault on Alara's senses, so different from her sterile, minimalist penthouse. Caleb gestured to an old rotary phone on the wall. "Give it a try. Like I said, it's temperamental." Alara tried her assistant, her mechanic, a car service. Nothing. The line crackled with static, the outside world refusing to connect. Her panic began to curdle into despair. "The storm's knocked something out," Caleb said, watching her from the doorway to the kitchen. "It happens. You're welcome to stay the night. I've got a guest room." "Stay." Alara laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "I can't stay. Don't you understand? This deal, it's everything. It's my legacy." "Legacy," Caleb repeated softly, the word hanging in the air between them. He looked around the humble kitchen, then back at her. "Some legacies are quieter than others." Frustrated, Alara paced the small living room. Her eyes fell on a series of framed photographs on the mantelpiece. Most were of a young woman with a bright, laughing smile and honey gold hair. In one, she was in a graduation gown. In another, she held a small child. Alara's breath hitched. There was something hauntingly familiar about the woman's face. "Your daughter?" Alara asked, trying to distract herself from her crumbling world. Caleb's expression, usually so composed, seemed to fracture. He walked over and picked up the graduation photo, his thumb gently stroking the glass. "Yes, that's Lily. She's beautiful. She doesn't live here anymore." He was silent for so long Alara thought he hadn't heard her. When he spoke, his voice was thick with a grief so raw it filled the room. "She's gone. 7 years now. I'm so sorry," Alara said, the words feeling inadequate. "What happened?" He looked directly at her, his blue eyes pools of ancient sorrow. "Car accident. A rainy night, much like this one. A driver in a hurry, running a red light. A merger, they said. Couldn't be late." The words landed like a physical blow. Alara's heart hammered against her ribs. A cold dread, entirely separate from her car troubles, began to creep up her spine. The familiar face in the photo, the timing. "When?" she whispered, her mouth dry as dust. "When did it happen?" "October 17th, Caleb said, his gaze unwavering, pinning her to the spot. 7 years ago, tomorrow." The world tilted. Alara's legs felt weak. October 17th. The date was seared into her own memory, a dark smudge on her rise to power. She had been that driver. A young, hungry executive, racing to a meeting that would make her career, desperate to close her first multi-million-dollar deal. She'd run a light on a rain-slicked street in Omaha. The crash wasn't bad for her, a fender bender. But the other car, a small, old sedan, had spun out, hitting a light pole. The news report had been brief. One fatality, Lily Ann Miller, 25. She had convinced herself it wasn't her fault. The light was yellow. The other car was going too fast. Her lawyers had made it go away. She had buried the memory, sealed it off in a vault of ambition and success. She had never known the victim's name, never seen her face. Until now, she was standing in the home of the man whose daughter she had killed. Her eyes met Caleb's. And in that endless, silent moment, she saw it. The recognition she'd glimpsed earlier wasn't a mistake. He knew. He had known who she was from the moment she'd given her first name. The merger, the date, the car, he had pieced it all together. This wasn't a chance encounter. This was a trap. And she had walked right into it.